Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Nerds Order music interview. Today, we have a very special guest, the lead vocalist, the vocalist of Elsie Binx. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Get started. So, tell me a little bit about you.
So my name is Erin, and sometimes people just call me Elsie, and that's okay too. I'll answer to Erin or Elsie, to be honest. But Elsie Binx is kind of a band like Alice Cooper, or I don't know, what's another example of like a name who
Jimi
it's like,
Hendrix.
yeah, well, yeah, but he was Jimi Hendrix. For us, like there's no Elsie. And at first with Alice Cooper, there was like no Alice kind of thing. But I've kind of grown to answer to Elsie if, if somebody just doesn't know my name. But my name is Erin. I am one of the many songwriters in our band, as well as the lyricist and front person on stage. And we've been together since 2015. This particular lineup has been together for, I think, 3 years this past January. We had a couple members like switch in and out within the first couple years, which is super common. But yeah, this current lineup's been around for about 3 years, and we're now 5 or 6 piece, depending on what's going on in people's lives. But during COVID, because obviously we haven't been able to see each other. We haven't seen each other since November, actually, but we've been a full-time streaming band basically. And we all perform on Twitch and do different styles of streams, and some are music and some are music production. And we've actually written like an entire 4th record through the pandemic, just digitally, which is pretty cool. So yeah, the band has been getting on okay. since the pandemic and stuff. I don't know that not every band can say the same thing, but yeah, that's just a little bit about the band. About me, what would you like to know about me, I guess?
What started your journey into music?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say my journey into music started when I was born, because my parents are very, very musical people, and they listened to good music. We talked very briefly about what kind of music you listened to growing up. My parents were the same way. They instilled upon me the classic rock and the 80s rock, and my mom loves Janis Joplin and, good shit. Aerosmith was up there, Boston, Queensryche. So I grew up listening. Yeah. So I grew up listening to a lot of 70s and 80s rock. And so that kind of, I think, built that ground foundation for me to start loving music at a really super young age. So I started performing when I was 7, and like school talent shows and at church and stuff. And it just kind of just full speed ahead. I hit the ground running as a singer. And then my parents saw that potential, and they started putting me in piano lessons, flute lessons. And eventually I worked myself up to bass in like jazz bands and stuff in school. I eventually picked up guitar. But like at this point, I pretty much just play keys and piano, or that's the same thing, keys and vocals. That's like my main way I write music and how music typically comes out of me. So yeah, it's been a long journey. It's been a long time. My first time on stage was 1996, and I don't think I've stopped since then.
That's awesome. So, when did you think of the band idea? Like, when did the band start?
So, like I said, we've been together since about 2015, but it was actually, the band was an accident, believe it or not. It started because me and one other person co-founded the band together, and he actually isn't in the band. He is one of the producers and engineers that we actually have with us at all times when we go and perform. And he also is like, he calls himself the driver of the Winnebago, because he owns the RV, and he's one of us, but he's not on stage. But he is a producer, and we were working together in a separate corporate wedding band for many years together. And then one day he was just like, so I've been watching you and this was like a year or two after having worked together. And he was the engineer for this band I was singing in. And he was like, I make music when I'm not doing this. Do you write music? And I was like, yeah, I have some songs. I had about 8 or 10 songs that were just chilling. And this was in the end of 2014. And so right at the beginning of 2015, we had a meeting at the studio and we started doing some pre-production on a couple other songs with one other songwriter who isn't involved in the project anymore, but he's still a good friend of ours. His name is Aaron GTV. And it just kind of took off from there. And I did an Indiegogo campaign. And part of that was to do a big release party. So the band members that some of whom are still in the band, but some who have moved on, kind of came together in the process of creating the music. It was like, oh, well, we have this intern who wants to throw some guitar on it. And it was cool. And I was like, cool, what's his name? Oh, cool. So this intern named Phil became the first official member of what the band would end up being. It didn't even have a working title at the time because it was just this passion project I wanted to do. And it was going to just be a one-off thing. Like, oh, look, I actually put some music out, you know, it was kind of just not really meant to be a band, not really meant to ever do anything at all. And then the people that ended up working on this project together, we were actually like, maybe we can write music together. And that's literally just what happened. It was totally accidental. Nobody in the band really knew each other prior to that. It was all just word of mouth. Like, hey, I need somebody to cut drums on this. Do you know somebody who is good for this type of music? And it just kind of fell into place. And that's, believe it or not, like I said, accidental band. It's very strange, but here we are 6 years later.
I mean, hey, even all accidents have a reason.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
My next question is, what made you guys think of the band name?
So because of, I'm glad that you asked this second, because it'll make more sense now. Because of the accidental nature of this and the fact that it was just a one-off project, the band name actually was originally just the solo project name for me. It was kind of literally synonymous with Aaron. And so it wasn't so much a group thing because I had already branded it to be just this one-off thing. And then we started to gain momentum, and we never thought about renaming ourselves because we already started all this branding, and it was, again, part of the accidental nature of all of it. And so the whole thing for me, Elsie Binx, is very, very personal because it was supposed to just be my name. And Elsie is a family name, actually. It's a maternal family name on that side of my family. And I always loved it. My middle name is a version of Elsie, which is Elise. And I honestly just really liked the name Elsie. So I was like, oh, maybe that can be my alter ego, my alter stage ego for this solo project, because it didn't end up being my actual name. So Elsie was the first name. And then the second name was like, I wanted a spirit animal kind of thing. So I was looking into names like Elsie Fox and Elsie Crow, and Elsie Mars also was another one of them, even though it's not an animal. But those were three of my favorite ones. And I was also very particular about being able to brand it very streamlined across all the social medias. So if I couldn't get Elsie, blank.com, I didn't want it. I don't want it to have to be Elsie Binx official or Elsie Binx music or whatever. It was just, I wanted it to be to the point. And so my mother actually was like, what about the name Binx? And I'm like, what's that? What is that? And she was like, the cat from Hocus Pocus. I'm like, I think that's great. And I tossed it around for a couple days, checked all the social media, got the domain name checked out. And it was just, it sank in, and I was like, I think I can do this. And hopefully one day we get a cease and assist from Disney. That's the best case scenario. So yeah, that's the full story.
Love it. Absolutely love it. All right, my next question is, what is the songwriting process for you and your band?
Okay, yeah. So obviously COVID changed it just a little bit, but even said, it's kind of stayed the same in the way that one person will have an idea for either a chord progression or a concept, and we'll bring it to the other people either in person before the pandemic or just digitally now. We talk a lot digitally still every single day. And So we have a Dropbox, and some of our musicians might put a demo in there and be like, does anybody hear anything on this? Like, do you hear a bass part, a drum part? Aaron, do you hear a melody on top of this? And that's honestly how we roll. Sometimes individual members have written entire songs. I've written a handful of entire songs. Our keyboardist and background singer, Jen, has also written a handful of entire songs that we've really loved. Our drummer, Darren, has also started to do this. And so it's really cool to watch people blossom into songwriters, because I used to kind of be the sole person to be like, I like that riff, keep doing that riff, I need to write something over it. Whereas now it's like we have backup, like we have all these other minds that want to write lyrics and write melodies. And it's probably one of the most collaborative bands, if I had to guess, it will ever exist, because it's so incredibly collaborative. And there's no rhyme or reason sometimes, but then, you know, that's music. That's part of the magic, is you can't plan sometimes. Every once in a while, a demo will get put into the Dropbox from anybody, and I'll be like, oh man, I know exactly what this song is, exactly what it is. And I'll be able to write it in a day. And so it just depends. It totally depends on the idea, but generally it's piece by piece. Somebody has an idea, and then we just all build on it as a group.
Right. Speaking of songs, what is the meaning behind "The Show Must Go On"?
So that's a cover song. That is a Queen cover song.
Oh,
But
right.
yes,
Remembered that. I just remembered that.
it's okay. But listen, that still works, because we chose it very specifically. And it is very, I think, very obviously pandemic related, because we refused to stop. And I don't mean that like we continue to get together unsafely. I mean that, like how I mentioned, digitally, we have been nonstop. We've written an entire record. We're almost done with that record since the pandemic started. We had like 2 of those songs started kind of in a way with structures and my vocal parts with words and stuff. But now we're like to like 14 songs, between 12 and 14 songs. And we have only 4 left that are like still being built up. I've done all the vocals on all the other ones. There's 4 left I got to do vocals on, and I try to do vocals last. So that's kind of to give you the picture of those other ones that are already done. Most things are done on those, and now I have 4 more to do vocals on, and we've written an entire album this year. And that's why we chose "The Show Must Go On," actually. So it's not that it's an irrelevant question because we didn't write the song, but we very much feel, you know, those lyrics, like my makeup may be fading, but my smile still stays strong. Like, it's kind of like just how everybody felt during this pandemic. We're all exhausted and wondering why. And then we remember, oh yeah, there's a once in a lifetime pandemic happening. So of course we're trying to get through, and we're trying to keep this smile on our faces, but the show must go on. Sometimes it doesn't, but that's kind of generally why we picked that one. And yeah, we just really love Queen too, to be honest. Queen is a huge influence for all of our members.
Rest in peace, Freddie Mercury. Oh, I loved his music.
Ouch, my heart. I know.
Like, it did seem very familiar to his song. I wasn't asked that, but I'm just like, I don't want to assume, so I just asked the way I asked before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my next question now is, tell me about this record. I'm really excited now.
Yeah, so I think so we have 3 records out currently, physical, like printed CDs, as well as, you know, digital, as well as a handful of other singles that are out there digitally. And so this is our 4th full-length record. And I would say every record has had a total different genre. It's had a different mind of its own. I will say that we're hard to peg when it comes to genres. And I'm really glad that you haven't asked what genre you think we are, because I don't have an answer for you. Because I feel like every single iteration, every single record has a different personality. There's different people involved. There's different songwriting processes. There's different content, and there's different instruments involved too. So like, it's this new one. I will say is something, it doesn't sound like anything else we've done. Some of them have gotten industrial sounding. Some of them have this punk rock vibe, which we've never done before. We've kind of dabbled in industrial before with like synth and like those really like guttural bass tones and stuff like that. But this one is the edgiest of the music we've ever created. It's definitely border on I would say it's a border somewhere between industrial metal and punk, some of the songs, but then some of them are more chill too. So it's, I don't know. I'm really excited to kind of release the Kraken, if you will, onto the world of this music, because it's not different from what we do, but at the same time, it's so much more evolved than what people have heard us put out in the past.
I wasn't to ask about the genre, but after I listened to a lot more stuff, I'm like, yeah, no, this is more than one genre here. I cannot ask that question.
I'm so glad you feel that way, because I really struggle to answer that question sometimes.
You know, I have it written down, but I'm over here listening to all your stuff. I'm like, yeah, no, this is not just one genre. These guys are way too diverse for that question.
Yeah.
So I just stopped myself. I'm like, nope, don't ask that one.
I appreciate that.
So my next question is, who would you love to collaborate with in studio and on stage? You have more than one option. You can ask, and you can make, I'm so sorry, English words. You can give all your answers.
So for me personally, so many things, because my influences range from Disney to Rob Zombie. like it's
The diversity already.
yeah. So for me personally, yes, I love Rob Zombie. I have not listened to his new record that came out this week though. Shh, don't tell him.
Oh, Queensrÿche made a new one too, actually.
What'd you say?
Queensrÿche released some new stuff, like I think last year.
Oh, I don't know if I saw or listened or saw it.
It came out more recent. Yeah, Queensrÿche released some new stuff too.
Oh, I need to check that out as well. And so it's like, for me, Pink and Lady Gaga and Brody Dahl are three of my like top shelf pedestal females. And that's just in that category, and none of them are the same genre, like at all, really, because Gaga's category. No, I lost the word.
Genre.
Yeah, for lack of the word I was looking for. She also is very just, every album sounds different. She also has this album with Tony Bennett. She's also been in Oscar nominated movies. So she's also kind of similar in the way of whatever comes out is who I am, kind of thing. It doesn't matter what genre it is. And she would be one of the top people for me, as well as, I mean, Pink was one of my first loves when it comes to like popular music, before Disney after Disney and Broadway stuff, which was my first love, actually. And so I would say Gaga and Pink. And then, do you know who Brody Dahl is?
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah, you definitely, if you're a music buff, which I know you are, you've probably come across her music. And she's the front person and songwriter of the Distillers, as well as Spinneret. And she also put out solo music for the first time ever, I think maybe 5 years ago or so. And I got to see her in concert in 2019, which, like, bucket list. She's the only punk person I would say that I will follow till her death, whatever, because punk doesn't resonate terribly well as a singer for me. Like, just in general, I don't write it off. It is what it is. If I like it, I like it. But typically punk doesn't translate well for me because I can't sing with it. But Brody is one of those punk singers that I always felt like I could sing with. And so she is one of my favorite humans in the whole world. And she's also probably one of those people I would just die. If I were in a room this size with any of them, I'd probably just, I'd be on the floor. Be rough.
That's great. I have a band who I would act the same way if I ever met. I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
Band's called Parents. They're a metalcore group. Love their stuff to death.
Nice.
Their music got me out of a lot of my depression, and then that also inspired me to start up this project.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
All right. What is the best piece of advice you were ever given when entering music?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that for me, I entered different parts of the music industry at different times. And so that answer is kind of multifaceted in a way because I entered, the public spotlight, call it, when I was 7. And everybody was just like, don't hold back. Just do what you're going to do on that stage and do not hold back. And so that was probably the first and foremost thing. I don't know if it's the most important. I mean, maybe it's the most important, but I feel like that's been definitely one of those things, the through line through every single part of my music career, whether it was just for fun and talent shows, whether I was competing in high school, whether I got hired for a wedding band when I was 21, did that for 10 years, almost 10 years. And it's just, and then when I made my own band, I had to find myself again because wedding Aaron is not the same Aaron as Elsie Binx Aaron. And so you have to learn how to manage those different personalities, if you will call them that, because they're different like stage personas. And I would say that probably don't hold back. Just be authentically you, is how I kind of translate that. But people always just told me don't hold back. And I try to tell people the same thing. Is just be authentically, as much as you can be authentically you as possible.
Really good advice.
Yeah.
All right. My next question, and probably my last one of today, is what is the future for you and your band? What is next?
So obviously, a little bit of what is next is the next record. We're really pushing hard to get that, just pushing it out. Our goal is to have it out in September because season changes are actually really smart for releasing music. So that's our main thing right now, is getting all this stuff done so we can have a September release for the beginning of autumn. Other than that, because obviously COVID makes everything a little bit stickier nowadays when you're trying to plan things. But right now we don't plan to start actually gigging again until we have the dates in front of us as to when our whole band will be vaccinated. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like we probably won't, I don't foresee us getting together again until we at least are all vaccinated, or very close to being vaccinated. We have at least 3 high-risk members. So, and I'm one of them. And so we can't really, I don't feel comfortable at this point getting together in one room to rehearse where our whole band sings. We all do backup vocals. So we can't safely be in one room where 6 people are shouting at each other. So that kind of is hard. It's different for bands who have one singer, right? Because everybody else can be safely wearing a mask. You can maybe put that singer in another room or farther away, but we have 6 members who all sing. And that's great until there's an airborne pandemic. And so we probably won't see each other again until we're at least almost fully vaccinated. We probably won't be gigging again until, I would guess, June or July. But it depends on when we can all get vaxxed. And in Michigan, April 5th is the date at which anybody can get the vax. It's just going to be a matter of like when you can get your vax scheduled. And so I don't know. I wish I knew the future of that right now. We're getting closer to knowing as our members are able to get, their dates and stuff, but the future looks bright for us. And we're making money on Twitch streaming, which is more than we can say while we were pounding the pavement, going into the red just to play to, 5 people at a bar who don't give a fuck, So we're actually making money on Twitch doing music streaming. And so we actually have saved up enough money to, when we are done with this 4th record, we will have money to actually pay for the CDs instead of putting it on a credit card, which is what I think a lot of people end up doing. I know I used to do it. And that's not a good feeling to put, $800 on a credit card somewhere to print your CDs. So it's The future's really bright. I know probably isn't necessarily the answer that most people have given, but we're in a unique situation because we started streaming right at the beginning of the pandemic here. We started streaming last March. We saw an opportunity and we just fucking took it. So it just kind of worked out in our favor. We've been making money, and as soon as we can get back on the road, we're going to, but it's just we're gonna take the safest approach because this album is the first priority. I think we'll start gigging here in Michigan and then maybe start trickling out into other states as we see that the vax is getting around. But yeah, the future is bright, I'd say, overall.
Definitely, and I cannot wait to see what comes next because now I'm really excited for this new record, and I cannot wait to see everything else and the gigs. If you guys start going to other states, come up here to Connecticut. I will run over there in a heartbeat.
I honestly, we have not hit the East Coast at all. So I know that we're already planning to go to New York because we've, for one reason or for no reason at all, we have built up a New York fan base on Twitch. We have at least 4 people who are like, no, I'd bring me and my friends to your show if you came to anywhere in New York. So like, we just got to keep growing in that way. And then eventually we'll be on the East Coast, you know?
Yeah. New York's actually really close to me. I'm like maybe like a state or two away from New York. So
in Michigan, a state or two is like 10 hours.
Okay.
I know.
State or two away from me from New York is like is like an hour or two on the bullet train and poof, we're there.
Yeah, which is amazing. I'm kind of sad that I don't live in a state like that because Michigan is just, it takes 2 hours to even exit Michigan. And then if you go up to Michigan, like up to the top, it's like another 10 hours up. It's giant. It's too big.
Ever heard of Texas? They're huge.
Oh yeah, we've actually been to Texas once. We played the Panhandle a couple times, but we actually haven't gone farther south because for that reason, it's like you got to take a week just to do Texas. And honestly, we can never leave for that long.
I went to San Antonio, loved it. When they go to Houston, I'm over here like, are we there yet?
Yeah. And so it's like we took the time to go to the Panhandle, but anything, you know, south of the Panhandle, we didn't have time to go to because we got to move on to Arizona and, you know, all the other places that we hit over in California. Like we've played a lot of places in the US, but Texas is problematic because you got to get down to Texas and then you got to be there for a week just to hit every city. Austin, Dallas, like you said, like there's San Antonio, just so many places.
It's insane. The size of that state is insane.
It really is. Excuse me.
But yeah, honestly, I would go to Michigan just to see you guys. I really would.
Aw, thank you. That's really sweet of you to say.
And I will drag around whoever I feel like bringing. Nah, actually, a lot of my friends do love what you guys do. Like, whenever I work with a group, I send a lot of the music over to them before I actually work with the band, and I usually get really positive responses. I have not gotten a single negative response yet from anyone I've sent the music I work with to. Mind you, I've worked with over 30 bands, and I always send their stuff over to them, and I've never gotten one negative response from any of the things I sent over. And they're like me. We listen to all genres. I can go from orchestra and opera one day to straight up death metal the next. Like I can go in between genres like that. And I've worked with groups like that. I worked with alternative, I've worked with black metal, punk rock, death metal, etc. Like I worked with like almost every rock, metal, and an alternative genre you can imagine. And
we actually have, so Jen, our keyboard player and background singer, she actually has a degree in operatic singing. So we have opera in a couple of our new songs.
Okay, now you got me excited.
I know.
Sorry for my curse.
I'm excited. Whatever. I've sworn like 10 times. I didn't even ask you prior to this if I could swear.
Oh, don't. Oh, go for it. I don't care.
I realized it as I swore. I'm like, oops, I didn't ask.
It's no
yeah,
big deal, honestly.
We have so much that is like going into this record. I'm gonna record flute. There's actually flute on a song on our album. That's what she said. Ooh. And it's distorted flute. And it's in the song Held Under is which one it is. That's what she
keep an ear out. I'll make sure.
It's in the bridge. I recorded 3 flute tracks. A couple of them are distorted actually, so they don't exactly sound like flute, but the flute in that song is real. I played it on my flute. It's actually, my flute is sitting right behind me on the table. I still play flute and I love it.
I miss flute. I love the little bats on the wall there. I think that's so cool.
Oh, thanks. It's a blanket covering a window.
Oh, that's awesome. I gotta hang up my tapestry still. I have one of those lying around. I gotta hang up.
And I have a ghost face back there, but he's falling.
I
He's
see
falling.
that. That's so
Yeah.
cute.
This is actually my stream room. This is like where
Nice.
like if I move my camera, I have a keyboard that pulls out right here. And I have a looper sitting here. And this is actually how I've been streaming and making money during the pandemic.
That's great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a media room behind me. Got a little movie screen on the wall, like this whole it's like a 120-ish theater screen,
Oh yeah.
arcade, freaking records.
That's cool.
Yeah, the machine works too. It's a blast.
Nice. We actually have one of those at the studio. We have a Mrs. Pac-Man. And
Oh,
it's
is it from Arcade One Up?
oh, I don't know. I don't know where it's from because
That's where
the
mine
owner.
is. Oh,
Oh yeah. I'm not entirely sure where it came from, but it's a Mrs. Pac-Man like body. The box is that, and then
yeah.
there's a simulator in it, and it's got like 60 games or something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the one
super
I
cool.
have, it's they're all authentic chips from the original companies, so it's none of it's emulated. It's all
Oh,
like the original game chips.
that's cool.
Yep. Galaga, Galaxian, Pac-Man, Super
Yeah.
Pac-Man, Dig Dug. I'm a big nerd.
You definitely are old for your age. I'll say that. Not old in a bad way, but definitely
More
I can
cultured.
see. Yes, you're more cultured than most 23-year-olds. I will say
Hell,
that.
I still use an NES, so and a Game Boy.
But that's still that's not normal for most 23-year-olds. That's totally commendable. I think you
Yeah, I'm a
going out of your way
retro.
to use that kind of stuff
I'm a
is
retro
really
freak.
cool.
I still use
Yeah,
vinyl. I still collect records and cassettes too. I'm super old school when it comes to that.
that's cool.
Plus, new bands are making vinyls now, so it's like woohoo! Actually,
Yeah.
Reality Suite, who was also under DI, is making a vinyl soon, which I'm very pumped for.
Mhm. Yeah, we hope to be able to print vinyl one day because we have Third Man here in Detroit. Uh, and that's kind of they're setting the standard, Jack White's place, his store, and then there's also a literal pressing plant. And it's really cool. And I've been there, I got to do a tour of it. It's super cool,
Well,
but
if you
it's
make a vinyl,
really expensive.
if you make some vinyls, you gotta send me one.
I will. I don't even know. It's so incredibly expensive. We have to hit it big on Twitch before we can consider doing that. But it's definitely something our band has talked about because we are all huge audiophiles. And just to be able to do that would be
Um,
a dream.
I have records from the 1700s.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's some opera stuff I found in some record store. No one wanted it, so I took it. It said like best of 1720s. Some of here are like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Best of Beethoven, stuff like that. And it's just like in my collection upstairs. Like I have my personal stash down here, which is the ones I purchased and the ones I've gotten for free I thought were good enough to listen
Hmm.
to all the time. And then I have like 300 more in my room, just like in boxes I have to go through. Because when people get rid of their records, I take them, I try to repurpose them and give them new owners, or I just listen to them myself. I have stuff like funk, orchestra, pop, Beach Boys, stuff like that.
Yes, Beach Boys. Gotta have
Yeah,
Pet Sounds on hand at all times.
exactly.
Gotta have
Yeah,
Pet Sounds is just one of the most incredibly recorded albums of all time.
for real. I still gotta get my hands on that. I even got some Queen Drake albums and some Queen. I got a bunch of stuff in here.
Yeah, my parents have kept their collections. They just still have their collections and they're in their 60s. So you can imagine their collections date back to the late 50s because they started collecting when they were both kids. So it's like they both have records that date literally back to the late 50s and early 60s, which
I
is
got some
pretty
stuff from
fun to watch.
Kansas and Boston too.
Yes,
I got like the original Boston albums, some of the Kansas ones. Oh goodness,
Brad Delp is one of my all-time favorite vocalists, just all time. His
amazing
vocals were
freaking work.
just immaculate. Yeah, it's just some of the most incredible work you've ever heard.
Definitely. Then I got stuff like I said from before from 1700s. I got those old what was it, Symphonic Treasure ones. They had like 20 of those. Remember those
That's
old
awesome.
ones?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get all 20 something of them. I have like two or three of them.
Compilations.
Yeah, the compilation ones.
That's
But
cool though.
yeah, it's a fun hobby, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, if I ever have kids online, I could be like, and this stuff is from my era. And before, I'm over here playing Atari one day, just like nerding out to old school music. I have people who go
Awesome.
to me like, "You way too old for your age." I'm over here like, "Oh, I know."
Yeah. That's
Hey,
awesome though.
old stuff was a lot more cooler than new stuff, especially in the worlds of comedy. George Carlin, I wish he was still alive. That
Yep,
comedian
I
was great.
agree.
It was so his jokes were so realistic. I loved it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I find old stuff far more entertaining than new stuff for most of the time.
Yeah, I think it depends on my mood because
Yeah,
sometimes I'll be like, I need something new, like brand new. I need something new, new. And then sometimes it's like, no, I'm gonna go back randomly and dig into something like Queensryche or Kansas
exactly.
or further back. And it's just like it depends on my mood. Like you said, you're
ZZ
the same
Top,
way.
Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath. Like,
Hmm.
like I can go with new stuff a lot too. It's more like what I'm feeling that day. One day I'll go super new school, and then I'll go old school the next. It's like just whatever's lying around and whatever mood I'm in.
Yeah, Spotify's so good for that. It's like, what do I want today? 90s club kid or like I'm all over the place
Honestly,
with
saying
stuff.
music's an adventure. It really is.
Yeah,
You
I
find
would
a
agree.
lot of good stuff that sometimes you never even expect to find. The
Yeah.
one thing I hate the most is when you cannot remember the name or the band, like the song name or the band name. It tortures you for years. That happened to me recently. I couldn't figure out the stuff for like 7 years. And out of nowhere, all the names just started flooding back, like flashbacks. And I'm like, I remember everything. Oh, goodness. And that was like torturing me for like the longest time. I couldn't remember the
Awesome.
names for years. And out of nowhere, Parliament, Act Street, like everything just started popping back into my head again. And I'm just like, oh, thank you.
Right. Come back. It's
May
like you
they
need
come
like your
back.
old iPod files to come back on
Oh
your
my God.
little.
I still have my shuffle somewhere, actually.
I have one too somewhere, but I sold my like the big chunky one, like the first one that was big
Oh
and
my
chunky
God.
and
The
and
big
like a
ones.
it's like a brick. I sold that a long time ago and I kind of am sad about it now.
Yeah, it's always fun having retro stuff collected.
Like I
Like,
have a couple cell
especially,
phones
oh,
from
definitely.
from
Especially if it's like
15 years
this.
ago.
I'm so sorry, you first.
Oh no, it's okay. I have like literally my first two not first two cell phones, but close to my first two cell phones from like almost 15 years ago. I have my
And
Razor.
oh my God, the Android Razor. That was like
Yeah.
my very first smartphone. I still have that somewhere.
Oh, that was not. I had a phone with no camera.
Oh goodness. The old flip phones, I didn't even have cameras back then.
Yeah, my Razor literally does is a flip phone. If there's a new Razor, then I don't know what it is.
The Razor I had was from like 10 years ago or some shit. Back when I
Hmm,
was like first starting, actually no, 8 years when I was first starting high school.
gotcha.
Time flies. Time really does fly.
Yeah. And you're
Oh,
23.
exactly.
It doesn't get better.
For real. Hell,
It keeps flying.
I still watch like the old school Tom and Jerry and shit like that because it's just humor back then was so much better than it is now.
I definitely grew up watching that stuff, like the Saturday morning cartoons, stuff
Oh
like
my
that.
God, don't get me started on that. That was
Yeah.
me every Saturday. I woke up, went right to the cartoons, and just chilled.
Hmm. I was that person too.
Hell, I have a bunch of like VHS tapes of all like old Cartoon Network recordings, the old
Oh, really?
commercials, the old shows, Acme Hour. Oh man, or Acme, however they said it back then. But no, it's like I have like all those old VHS tapes of all the old commercials. Just nostalgic as hell watching those.
Yeah. That's one
Uh,
thing I missed out on was I did not grow up with cable, sadly. So like anything that was on cable, I missed out on. And like there's things that constantly come up even still today that I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's like, yeah,
that's
I didn't have cable till I was 16 and I didn't even really like, I don't know. I feel like there wasn't that much to watch by the time I was 16. I just like consumed all the South Park and that was it.
South Park. They give no fucks.
None. And I adore them. I still to this day adore South Park.
Honestly, I love humor today that they just don't give a shit. I love that.
Hmm.
There's some shows from Japan that do that too. Well, the US version, like Ghost Stories, that was
Mm.
funny. Basically, it was a
I
show in
haven't seen
Japan that did very poorly. So when it's time to bring it to the US, they just hired a bunch of comedians and rolled with it. They
Oh, what
turned
was
it
it
into a
called?
Ghost Stories. It's an anime from 2003. It
Oh,
the Japanese version did so poorly because the characters were underdeveloped and a bunch of crap. When it was time to bring it to America, they just said, "Do whatever you want with it. We don't care anymore. Just make money."
oh,
So they hired a bunch of comedians, and now it's like comedy gold.
well, that's can't be bad.
If they released it now, it would get so much hate
Mm,
because the humor back then was so it was fucked, but it was funny.
yeah. And people just didn't. know better a lot of the time. We've learned so much as a society that it's like, oh yeah, I can see how that was funny then, but it's like, oh, but now I understand why it's not a great look anymore,
Yeah.
you know?
Like I love my dark humor, don't get me wrong, but I can understand why people hate it. I can understand that. So I never usually do my dark humor unless it's with like my close friends
Yeah,
because we all do dark humor together. Hell, we make fun of ourselves half the time.
exactly. As long as you know your audience, you're good. You know,
Exactly.
that's the key. Know your audience.
Same thing can go for music. Know who you're making it. Like, we'll make it for yourself, obviously, but
Right.
it's like make sure the right people hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, it did, especially with Dakota. Like, actually, I should have asked this before. How did you meet Dakota?
Oh, actually, so it was a mutual friend. I actually didn't meet Dakota until like he had already approached us about working with him because we have this super fan named Jimmy Jams, and he puts up hundreds of videos every year, not just of us, but any band he goes to and falls in love with. It's like his passion project. He's become a very good friend of mine. I actually helped him develop a website last year, and I'm one of his go-to people for technology stuff and things like that. And Jimmy Jams went somewhere with some band. I just couldn't tell you what band it was at this time, but I think that band was working with Dakota or knew Dakota. And Jimmy Jams was at the same hotel as Dakota, and he had an Elsie Binx shirt on. And Dakota had heard of us already and was thinking about contacting us. And as the story goes, I hope I'm getting the story right, but as Jimmy Jams has told it and Dakota has mentioned to me in the past, is that they literally met at this hotel, and Dakota had seen Jimmy Jams's videos of us on YouTube. And that's what had propelled him to take a look at us, because we sounded good in even live videos, which isn't always the case for people. And that's one of the things. And so Dakota and Jimmy got to talking, and he was like, yeah, I mean, they're great people. I vouch for them. And that's kind of what pushed Dakota that final thing. Like, okay, I want to actually talk to Aaron and get to know them and meet them. And he came up to Michigan and came to a show and offered us, paperwork in front of us, and has been one of our huge allies and helping hands ever since. And that was about a year and a half ago or so.
That's he's such a good guy. He really is.
Honestly, he has helped propel our brand so much since he started working with us. He's gotten us on like Spotify playlists and other type of playlists, and it has blown our numbers out of the water. And it's been like, how'd you do that? Like that was awesome. How'd you do that? Do it again. Like that's so much fun. And he just wants to help. He just wants to see people succeed, and he's doing it for the right reasons. And that's, he's not doing it for personal gain. He just wants to see us succeed.
Hmm. He mentioned a lot. He mentioned that to me similar as well. Like he wanted to see me succeed with this because he knows this is a passion of mine. Because
Mhm.
music is what kept me alive through a lot of dark shit. So I started
Mhm.
this up to give back. And he said to me, "I would rather see you succeed because I know you're a good person," and that just warmed my heart.
Yep, that in a nutshell is exactly what Dakota wants. When he sees somebody going after their dream because it's what they desperately want and need to do with their life, he's like, "What do you need? How can I help?" And he's on board 1,000%.
Such a good dude. Honestly, I have so much respect for that man.
Yeah, for real.
I am so glad he found me. I really am. I've met some.
Same.
I've met some awesome groups doing this through him.
Yeah, same. I try to pay attention to how many, what other bands are under his label at any given time, but like I feel like he expands so regular that like I can't even keep up.
He
So it's like I
does.
haven't.
He
Yeah,
expands a lot.
I'm behind. I'm not gonna lie. Like I know that we were not like we weren't the first by any stretch of the imagination, but we were like within the first handful that I think he started to reach out to and really push forward. And so it's like he was rebranding when we met him. Actually, all his stuff, it said DI Records, but it actually all said Devil Inside Records, and it was
Mhm.
all different branding and stuff. And he was in the process of rebranding at that point. And I think he did his brand new stuff with us and those other handful of bands as that push forward for even his brand. So it's like, I was really honored to be like next generation of his own brand being pushed out with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was really honored by that he wanted to get us in under that wing right before he pushed himself up to like the next level. So it's been pretty cool. It's been very cool.
He's such a pleasure to work with. He really is.
Mm-hmm.
And he introduced me to so many awesome people to talk with. It's been a real journey.
Yeah. And you're not even the first podcaster that I know. Podcaster interviewer. I'm not sure exactly which title actually.
I do
you go
both.
with.
I upload videos on YouTube and then I put the audio on a podcast.
Yeah. So you're actually, I think, the second person that I know that's gotten connected through Dakota. Another person that now is partnered with him is Super Cool Radio.
Yeah, I talk to him actually regularly. We chat a lot.
Yeah. And we've been friends with Matthew for a couple years now, maybe even longer than Dakota. And I thought it was awesome when I saw Matthew announce that he was working with Dakota. I'm like, yay, it's such great. Like, and that's just what networking is, you know? And I'm just so incredibly grateful that he got on Dakota's radar. So it's like, everybody helps everybody. There's no competition, just everybody lift each other up.
That's why I love the world of music like that. Everyone's there to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Matt's the one who helped me figure out how to do podcasting. He's been giving me the tips I needed.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Dakota put me in a chat with like 5 people, and I was over here, my anxiety shooting through the roof. Matt was one of them, and me and Matt talk regularly about how I can improve my stuff, and if I run into any errors, I contact them. Awesome, dude.
Good. I'm so glad he's helping.
They've both been an amazing help.
Yeah.
Been such a pleasure working with the guy. It really has been insane. Like I never expected this opportunity, because like this is a thing I do for fun. Well, not for fun, but passion project, and it's been a lot of fun. But like I didn't expect it to jump like this. Because after I worked with a band called Sepsis a little while ago, they told me to post what I do on their page, to get some new bands to work with. I expected maybe 1 or 2 responses, like the normal response. Nah, I get 10 bands messaging me and then Dakota. I'm over here like, wait, what?
Like hello?
I'm still trying to mentally process that. It's been a few weeks, but I'm still trying to process it because I wasn't expecting that outcome at all.
No, I totally understand. That's amazing, though.
I'm just some random kid from Connecticut who wanted to get back to music. I didn't expect this to actually improve that fast.
Or even like you hit the ground running and didn't even realize it.
Essentially.
But that's amazing. That's so cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just want to give back to music and help all the bands get their stories out there with their music. That's why I do this.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to actually meet an owner of a label.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely it's unfortunately all happenstance,
Yeah.
You just got to get on somebody's radar. And like I was telling you, Jimmy Jams happened to be at the same hotel wearing an Elsie Binx shirt. And Dakota had already heard of us. And he's like, hey, what do you know about them? And Jimmy had been traveling with us, like being our unofficial, we like in Almost Famous, like a Band-Aid, like whatever we need, he would just pay his own way, whatever kind of thing. And he would be a part of the crew, whatever we need. And he would also video, behind the scenes kind of stuff. And that's who Dakota happened to run into. So it was like the perfect situation because Jimmy knows us so well. And it's all happenstance.
Definitely. And so far, I'm actually really glad that he found you guys because this has been fun as hell.
Yeah.
It's so much fun meeting groups like this.
And I'm sad that I don't get to talk to more, like, obviously, as band members, we get to talk to a lot of interviewers and podcasters and content creators. But like, I've noticed that on Twitch, a lot of the front people actually want to talking to each other. Like me and Allison of Roses on Red have done some like interview each other, like just hangouts, because we don't ever get to talk to each other. Like we're always talking to the interviewers. And so there's been this I'll call it an uprising of sorts on Twitch in like the music scene of doing interviews with each other because we just want to talk to each other. We haven't gotten that, opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And if you want to get in touch with more bands under DI, let me know. I can give you a few names. Because
Yeah,
I've
I
worked with
might.
I worked with quite a few of his bands already. I can just send you over some of the accounts and names so
Yeah,
you can get to know them.
absolutely. That I think that would be awesome because I want to do some more stuff like that on my Twitch channel and like start to open it up and do some like chat streams basically with
Yeah.
other bands and kind of get more visibility out there.
Actually, what is your Twitch? I'll follow you after this is done.
Oh, it's just EBX_Aaron.
EBX Aaron. Gotcha.
Yeah, EBX is short for Elsie Binx, which is why it's just EBX_. Yeah. But yeah,
All
that's
right.
me.
I will make sure to do that today.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
This has been such a blast, honestly.
Yeah, and thank you for reaching out. I'm glad I had time this week to figure it out. Like it's been crazy. Allergies have been nasty today, so I'm glad that
I
I
hate
haven't been sneezing the
allergies.
whole day.
I get those too. It sucks. And
I
I'm
took some
glad
meds.
yeah, I'm glad I had time too, because like last week I was working with 10 bands that entire week. So it's like this week was a lot less to work with. So I'm kind of glad because I have to edit like 16 videos.
That's a lot, and they're all about an hour, so it's not easy to get all this
Yeah.
content out.
Usually half hour to an hour. I mean, right
Yeah.
now because of COVID, I'm not able to get work because of the kind of field I took on. Because it's all close proximity, so it's like those are all time really closed down for the pandemic. So I've had nothing but time to kill,
Mm,
and I hate sitting around doing nothing.
that's
So
good.
I just started this up, and I'm like, you know what? Hey, more bands I take on, more editing I got to do. I got plenty of time, so I'll just do it.
Makes total sense. Trust me. I'm the one. I wasn't a streamer before COVID, and here I am now with the whole home studio.
Fair enough.
So I totally get it.
Uh, man, this whole idea of ours, this wacky idea, started with me and my friends wanting to make a group for like nerds to just meet up and get along and find new shit. And since I'm a
Awesome.
music junkie, I'm like, "No, let me do a music part of this little segment because music wasn't originally involved in our little idea until I decided to do a music part of it.
Mhm.
It was supposed to be about pop culture, comics, anime, shit like that. And
Okay.
I suggested to do music, so I just did my own thing with it.
Ah,
Yep. And we're gonna be doing our first group post soon. I'm the one who's been posting so far on the YouTube because
mm.
like they don't know what to do.
Well,
So
good.
yeah,
You're hitting the ground running, so it's never a bad thing.
exactly. We're gonna do a little Cards Against Humanity thing pretty soon. That game is so fun. That game is amazing. Actually, we're thinking about inviting some bands who I work with to play with us every so often,
Oh, that's cool.
like a little stream, little Cards
Yeah.
Against Humanity stream with some of the bands. I actually just thought of that this week. We haven't
Yep.
done our first video yet, so I'm waiting on the idea. But like once I get that up and running, I'm definitely gonna start doing that. I think it'd be fun to bond with more than just like friends I know IRL.
Yeah, and it's easier to expand that way, and also you'll get some more discovery too if you start streaming, because we've actually done that. We've done Cards Against Humanity, or no, I'm sorry, we didn't do Cards Against Humanity. We did Apples to Apples and What Do You Meme, which is a meme game,
Oh, I
kind of
heard of
like
that
Cards
one.
Against. Dude, we were cracking up, crying, laughing. Some of the meme stuff was hysterically funny. And it was a blast, and we had like 20-30 people in the chat the whole time just watching us play games, and it was just me and like it was most of the band. I think two members couldn't stay the whole time to play games. We did like and just chatting, answering questions kind of thing, and then after that we played What Do You Meme, and it was hysterically funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm definitely checking out your Twitch after this is done. You got me excited. I love stuff like this. It's
Yeah.
so fun. I love being able to do this, speak with bands, and just doing the whole thing in a nutshell has been an insane opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I didn't
And doing it
expect
live
this.
is something too that I don't know if you're into the idea of doing interviews live and stuff, but it is pretty fun to have a live chat running and being able to run a stream
Yeah.
and also be able to have your audience asking questions too, you know?
Like I would love to do that, don't get me wrong. It's just the audience I'm working with right now isn't big enough to do that. Like I only have like
Yeah.
40 followers on YouTube, 220 on Instagram. Like it's not big enough to where I can get a constant amount of people in.
Yeah.
Once that starts lifting up and I get more followers and I'm able to start doing that, I'm definitely gonna be doing live interviews.
Yeah. It's a cool thing to expand into. Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think it probably isn't the right move right now, but I think you'll absolutely get there because you're going to just keep running. It seems like you're just like going to just keep going. You're
Yeah,
propelled forward. You have a lot of initiative for this to just go somewhere.
exactly.
That's
I just
awesome.
want to give back to music. That's why I do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so far things have been going pretty smoothly ever since I met Dakota.
Yeah.
And I swear, I don't know where I'd be without him right now. Such an awesome guy.
Honestly, same. We wouldn't have had a lot of experiences without him at this point. We've gotten a lot of really incredible exposure because of him.
For real. He's such a chill guy too. I love it. Also, his comedy is on point. I love his comedy.
I feel like there's some dad jokes that live in his brain. I think.
I mean, hey, dad jokes are amazing too, honestly.
Absolutely, they are.
All right, well, thank you. I should probably wrap this up.
Oh, I didn't even realize it's almost been an hour. See,
exactly.
I know. I didn't even realize because my
neither did I. I just checked my phone. I'm like, oh shit, it's almost been an hour.
It's all good.
This has been another Nerd Daughter music interview. Today we're with the vocalist of Elsie Binx, and you have an awesome day. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.